Frontier Justice. The sun hung like a molten disk over Redemption, Arizona. I squinted against its harsh glare, feeling sweat trickle down my back beneath a worn cotton shirt. My badge, a five-pointed star pinned to my vest, caught the light as I pushed through the swinging doors of the Dusty Trail Saloon. The familiar stench of whiskey, tobacco, and unwashed bodies hit me like a wall. I'm Ethan Callahan, Marshal of Redemption, not by choice exactly, more by circumstance and the weight of too many dead men's memories. The saloon fell silent as I entered, conversations dropping to whispers. I caught sight of them immediately, two strangers with hard eyes and hands hovering near their holsters. They flanked a nervous-looking Mexican merchant who was backed against the bar. "Gentlemen," I said, keeping my voice level, "seems you're making Mr. Rodriguez uncomfortable." The taller one, a scarecrow of a man with a pockmarked face, turned slowly, his lips curled into a sneer. "This ain't your business, Marshal." "Everything in Redemption is my business." I let my duster fall open, revealing the Colt Peacemaker on my hip. The .45 caliber single-action Army revolver had been with me since Appomattox. 6 shots. I rarely needed more than 2. "We got papers on this Mexican," the second man growled. "Bounty from down south." Rodriguez shook his head frantically. "They lie, Marshal. I am honest merchant." I studied the bounty hunters. Their eyes gave them away. Too eager, too hungry, wolves in human skin. "Show me these papers," I said. The tall one's hand twitched. "After we collect." "I count to 3, I said softly. 1. His hand moved for his gun. 2. I never needed to reach 3. The Peacemaker cleared its holster in a practiced motion. Thumb on hammer, finger on trigger. As I fanned it twice in rapid succession, the sound exploded through the saloon, leaving ears ringing and smoke hanging in the air. Both men crumpled to the floor before they could clear leather. One shot through the shoulder, the other through the gun hand. Precise, clean, alive to stand trial. "Someone fetch Doc Sullivan," I called out, holstering my weapon, "and tell Sheriff Jenkins in Tucson he's got bounty hunters to collect." Rodriguez clutched his chest, eyes wide. "Gracias, Marshal, gracias." I nodded once and headed for the door. "Next time, stay out of the Dusty Trail. Some places attract trouble like flies to honey." Morning found me atop Sergeant, my chestnut Morgan with one white sock. We made our daily rounds along Redemption's dusty main street. The town had grown since the Pacific Railroad came through in '69. What was once a watering hole with a handful of buildings was now a proper settlement. General store, blacksmith, 2 saloons, a small church, and even a 2-story hotel. The war had been over for a decade, but I still carried it with me. 1st Missouri Cavalry. 4 years of blood and smoke that taught me more about dying than living. I'd learned to shoot straight, ride hard, and bury friends. After Appomattox, I drifted west like many former soldiers, looking for something I couldn't name. I took the Marshal's badge in Redemption 3 years ago, when the previous lawman took a bullet meant for a child during a bank robbery. I pinned on the star thinking it might be temporary. Now it felt fused to my skin. Sergeant's ears pricked forward suddenly. I followed his gaze to the north end of town where a cloud of dust announced visitors. 3 black carriages approached, flanked by mounted men with rifles. My hand instinctively drifted toward my holster. The lead carriage stopped in front of the hotel. The door swung open, and out stepped a man in an immaculate black suit and bowler hat. I recognized him immediately, though I hadn't seen him since the war. Samuel Bishop. During the conflict, he'd sold weapons to both North and South, profiting from death while claiming patriotism. Now he was one of the wealthiest men in the territory, with fingers in mining, railroads, and cattle. "Marshal Callahan," he called out, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. "What a pleasant surprise. Last I saw you, You were dragging wounded men off a battlefield. I remained in the saddle looking down at him. Bishop, what brings you to redemption? He smiled, revealing teeth too perfect to be real. Progress, Marshal. I've acquired the Eagle's Nest silver mine outside town. Redemption is about to prosper like never before. The men flanking him spread out slightly. Among them was a face I'd never forget. Frank Wolf. Square jaw, dead eyes, and a reputation as the fastest gun west of the Mississippi. He'd killed my younger brother in St. Louis over a card game, shooting him in the back before he could even stand up. I see you still keep interesting company, I said, eyes locked on Wolf. Bishop followed my gaze. Ah, yes, Mr. Wolf provides security for my operations. I believe you two are acquainted? Wolf's lips curled. The marshal and I have unfinished business. Not in my town, I said quietly. Bishop clapped his hands together. Well, I've arranged accommodations for myself and my associates at the hotel. We'll be in town while operations at the mine expand. I do hope we can count on your cooperation, Marshal. I uphold the law, Bishop. Nothing more, nothing less. Bishop's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course. That's all any of us want. As they moved toward the hotel, Wolf lingered. That star on your chest don't make you immortal, Callahan. I met his gaze. Neither does working for Bishop. That evening, Marcus Thompson, the bank manager, requested a meeting at his home. A slight, balding man with spectacles, Thompson had been in redemption since its earliest days. Bishop's been buying up land all around the region, Thompson said, pouring me a glass of brandy. The Eagle's Nest mine is just his latest acquisition. Legal purchases? Thompson grimaced. Technically, yes, but his methods are questionable. Threats, manipulation, accidents that befall those who refuse to sell. I sipped the brandy. Has he approached landowners here in Redemption? Several. Miguel Vasquez already refused to sell his ranch. Bishop's men visited him yesterday. Miguel was a good man who'd built his small cattle ranch from nothing over 15 years. His wife had died during childbirth, leaving him to raise their son alone. Bishop's buying local officials too, Thompson continued, lowering his voice. Judge Winters in the county seat took a substantial loan last month. You seem well informed, Marcus. He removed his spectacles, cleaning them nervously. Banking gives one a unique perspective on the flow of money, and Money Marshal always tells the truth. I finished my drink and stood. Keep your ears open. I need to know what Bishop's really after. Be careful, Ethan, Thompson warned. Bishop didn't get where he is by playing fair. It started with small incidents. Cattle from the Vasquez ranch found dead near water sources. Merchants suddenly unable to receive shipments. A fire at the livery stable that killed 2 horses. I confronted Bishop at the Eagle's Nest mine, riding out alone despite Thompson's warnings. The operation had tripled in size in just 2 weeks. Mexican laborers toiled under the watch of armed guards. Many looked thin and exhausted. Bishop received me in a makeshift office, maps spread across his desk. These incidents in town, I said without preamble. They stopped now. Bishop looked offended. I'm a businessman, Marshal, not a thug. Tell that to Vasquez's dead cattle. The desert is dangerous, Bishop shrugged. Predators abound. Some wear suits, I countered. Bishop's expression hardened. Careful, Marshal. Accusations require evidence. I'm giving you fair warning. Anyone hurts the people of Redemption, they answer to me. Bishop leaned forward. Progress cannot be stopped, Callahan. This territory is changing. Those who adapt will thrive. Those who resist. He gestured vaguely. Is that a threat? A simple truth. I've already spoken with Governor Safford. The territory needs men of vision, not relics of a bygone era. As I turned to leave, Bishop called after me. Oh, and Marshal, Judge Winters has appointed a new territorial lawman to oversee this region. He arrives next week. Your Services may soon be redundant. The situation escalated 3 days later. Miguel Vasquez's ranch house burned to the ground. His son found Miguel's body in the smoldering ruins, a bullet hole in his chest. I was examining the scene when Running Bull, chief of the local Apache band, approached on horseback. The Apache had maintained an uneasy peace with Redemption for years, largely staying in the hills to the east. "The water stealer brings death," Running Bull said without dismounting. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with intensity. "Bishop?" He nodded once. "His men poison Creek at sacred grounds. Drive game away. Now kill ranchman who respected our boundaries." I hadn't known the Apache and Vasquez had an understanding. "What does Bishop want with your land?" "Not land. Water." Running Bull pointed to the distant mountains. "Many streams flow underground. Bishop builds dam to take all water for his mines." If true, such a move would devastate both the Apache and the ranchers downstream. "Can you prove this?" Running Bull reached into a pouch and withdrew a folded paper. "Found on White Man, map of all waters." The crude map showed the underground water sources throughout the region, including streams that ran beneath Apache territory and fed the ranches around Redemption. Bishop was planning to control every drop. "I will help you fight Water Stealer," Running Bull said, "for both our peoples." I extended my hand, and after a moment's hesitation, he clasped it firmly. "First," I said, "I need evidence that will stand in a white man's court." That night I rode alone to the mine. Using skills honed during scout duty in the war, I slipped past the guards and found my way to the main shaft. What I discovered confirmed my worst suspicions. Dozens of laborers, mostly Mexican and Chinese, were effectively imprisoned at the mine. Their quarters were locked from the outside. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. And in Bishop's office, I found ledgers detailing worker debts that ensured none could ever leave. As I was photographing documents with a small Kodak camera I'd borrowed from Thompson, a noise at the door made me freeze. A young Mexican boy, no more than 14, stood wide-eyed in the doorway. "Don't shoot, senor," he whispered. "Please." I lowered my gun. "What's your name, son?" "Joshua, senor. Joshua Ramirez." "You shouldn't be here, Joshua." "Neither should you," he replied with surprising courage. "They kill anyone who sees these papers." I studied him. "You trying to escape?" He nodded frantically. "They took us from Mexico, promised good pay, but we never leave. 3 men tried last week. They—" His voice cracked. "I'm the marshal from Redemption. I can get you out." Joshua's eyes widened. "There are others, children too, in the north shaft." My blood ran cold. "Show me." What I saw in that shaft would haunt me forever. Children as young as 8 breaking rocks in near darkness. Many showed signs of beating. All were malnourished. I made a decision. "Joshua, I'm getting you out tonight. Then I'm coming back with help for the others." As we crept toward the perimeter, shots rang out. We'd been spotted. I pushed Joshua ahead. "Run for the trees! Don't stop!" I turned and fired, providing cover as the boy fled. 3 guards approached, guns blazing. I took down 2 but felt a sharp burn as a bullet grazed my side. Pressing a hand against the wound, I retreated into the darkness. Joshua and I rendezvoused at a predetermined location 2 miles from the mine. The boy was terrified but unhurt. "Bishop has mercury and cyanide," Joshua told me as we rode double on Sergeant, "for processing silver, but he's dumping it in the stream that flows under the mountains." "Poisoning the water supply," I muttered, "driving everyone out so he can claim the land." By dawn, we reached Redemption. I took Joshua to the church, where Pastor Mitchell agreed to hide him. Then I headed for a confrontation I could no longer avoid. I found Bishop enjoying breakfast on the hotel veranda. Frank Wolf and 2 other gunmen flanked him. I approached openly. My wound bandaged beneath my shirt, determination overriding the pain. Marshal, Bishop smiled. Join me for coffee? I've seen your operation, Bishop. The forced labor, the children, the poison. Bishop's smile didn't waver. Serious accusations require serious evidence. I have it. Documents, photographs, witnesses. For the first time, Bishop looked uncertain. Even if true, and I deny everything, what exactly do you think you can do? Judge Winter's answers to me. Governor Safford is an investor in my enterprises. There are still honest lawmen in this territory. Bishop laughed. Are there? Frank, show the marshal our latest acquisition. Wolf tossed something onto the table. A territorial marshal's badge. Congratulations on your promotion, Mr. Wolf, Bishop said smugly. As of yesterday, you have jurisdiction over Redemption and the surrounding county. You can't do this, I growled. It's already done, Bishop replied. Your services are terminated, Callahan. I suggest you leave town while you can still ride. I held my ground. This isn't over. Bishop's face hardened. Actually, it is. You have until sundown to vacate your office and leave Redemption. Otherwise, Marshal Wolf here will have to arrest you for interfering with mining operations. Wolf's hand rested on his gun. Please resist, Callahan. I've waited years to finish what we started in St. Louis. I looked each man in the eye. I've buried more outlaws than you've lived years on this earth, Bishop. Don't make me dig another hole. I never made it back to my office. On the outskirts of town, 5 riders appeared from behind an outcropping of rocks. Wolf's men. I recognized their intention immediately and kicked Sergeant into a gallop, drawing my peacemaker as bullets whizzed past. I took cover behind a boulder, returning fire with practiced precision. One rider fell, then another, but they had me pinned down, bullets chipping away at my shelter. 4 years of war had taught me how to fight outnumbered. I worked my way along a dry creek bed, using the terrain for cover. A third attacker went down with a shot to the chest, but as I moved to a new position, a bullet found its mark, tearing through my shoulder. The impact spun me around, sending my gun flying. Blood soaked my shirt as I scrambled for cover. The 2 remaining attackers closed in for the kill. A rifle shot cracked from the ridge above, then another. Both attackers fell from their horses. I looked up to see Running Bull and 3 Apache warriors on the ridgeline, rifles in hand. Water Stealer's men ride with evil spirits, Running Bull said as they approached, but Apache bullets find them anyway. They helped me on to Sergeant and escorted me to their camp, hidden in the hills. There, a medicine man treated my wounds with herbs that burned like fire, but stopped the bleeding. Bishop will claim I ambushed his men, I said through gritted teeth as the medicine man worked. Turn the town against me. Running Bull nodded grimly. Already happening. Your banker friend sent message. Bishop tells big lies about Marshal Callahan. Says you steal from bank. Kill Mexican rancher. Thompson warned me? He's still loyal? Not loyal, Running Bull said. Scared. Says Bishop plans to burn Redemption tomorrow if people don't sell land. I tried to stand but nearly collapsed from the pain. I have to stop him. Running Bull pushed me back down. Not alone. Apache fight with you, but first must heal. 2 days passed before I could ride. My shoulder throbbed, but determination dulled the pain. Thompson had smuggled Joshua's testimony and my photographs to the territorial capital, but help, if it came at all, would arrive too late. Under cover of darkness, our unlikely alliance gathered. Myself, Running Bull with 6 warriors, 3 ranchers who'd refused to sell to Bishop, and Joshua, who insisted on joining despite my objections. They have 20 armed men, I explained, sketching a map in the dirt. Concentrated here at the mine and here in town. Bishop stays at the hotel, guarded day and night. What are the townsfolk? Asked Henderson, one of the ranchers. Most have fled or been paid to look the other way, I replied. The remaining families are gathered at the church under Pastor Mitchell's protection. Our plan was desperate but simple. The Apache would create a diversion at the mine while we slipped into town to confront Bishop and Wolf. Once we have Bishop, I concluded, we force him to confess. His operation falls apart without him. Running Bull studied the crude map. And the water poison? Joshua knows where it's stored. We destroy it all. As dawn approached, we moved into position. I checked my peacemaker one final time. 6 bullets, each one accounted for in my mind. The Apache attack on the mine began precisely at sunrise. Even from our position a mile away, we could hear gunfire and see smoke rising. Bishop's men would be fully occupied there. We entered Redemption from the west, keeping to the shadows. The town seemed eerily quiet until we reached the main street. There, Bishop's remaining men had gathered the townspeople in front of the hotel. Bishop stood on the veranda, addressing the crowd. Progress requires sacrifice, he was saying. Those who stand in its way must be removed. Marshal Callahan chose his path. Now you must choose yours. Frank Wolf stood beside him, new marshal's badge gleaming on his chest. I signaled to my companions to spread out, then stepped into the street alone. "It's over, Bishop," I called out. The crowd parted, faces showing shock and confusion. Bishop's expression darkened. "Callahan, you're more resilient than I gave you credit for." "And you're more despicable," I replied, walking steadily forward. "Forced labor, child workers, poisoned water, murder. Lies from a desperate man," Bishop countered, but murmurs spread through the crowd. "I have proof," I said. "Photographs, witnesses, your ledgers showing every crime." Wolf drew his gun. "That's far enough, Callahan." I stopped, keeping my hand away from my holster. "The Apache are liberating your mine as we speak, Bishop. Your operation is finished." Bishop's composure cracked. "Wolf, kill him!" "No!" A voice rang out from the crowd. Marcus Thompson pushed forward. "I've seen the evidence. I sent copies to the governor. Troops are on their way." Bishop's face contorted with rage. "You? My own banker?" "I've been your puppet too long," Thompson replied, straightening his spectacles. "No more." Bishop turned to Wolf. "Kill them both." Wolf grinned, drawing his pistol. "With pleasure." Time slowed. Wolf was fast, reputation well-earned. But I'd been waiting for this moment since St. Louis. The peacemaker cleared leather as if it had a will of its own. One shot, clean and true. Wolf's bullet went wide as mine found his heart. He looked surprised as he fell, as if death was an outcome he'd never considered. Bishop fled into the hotel as chaos erupted. His remaining men opened fire from the rooftops. The townspeople scattered, seeking cover as my allies returned fire. I pursued Bishop inside, taking the stairs 2 at a time despite my wounded shoulder. I found him in his room, frantically stuffing documents and gold into a case. "It's finished, Bishop." He turned, revealing a derringer in his hand. "I built an empire, Callahan. Men like me shape the future." "Not anymore." He fired. The small caliber bullet hit my already wounded shoulder, sending fresh pain radiating down my arm but not stopping me. I crossed the room in 3 strides and knocked him to the floor, the derringer skittering away. "You could have been rich," Bishop spat, blood on his lips from the fall. "I offered you wealth beyond imagination." I hauled him to his feet. "I've seen enough blood and gold to know which weighs more. And it isn't gold." The territorial authorities arrived by noon the next day. The evidence was overwhelming. Bishop's empire collapsed as quickly as it had risen. The laborers from the mine were freed, families reunited, and water sources secured from contamination. Judge Winters was removed from office. Frank Wolf was buried in the small cemetery outside town. No marker, just a number. Bishop himself was transported to Yuma Territorial Prison to await trial for multiple counts of murder, extortion, and human trafficking. As the dust settled, I stood on the hill overlooking Redemption. My badge, my real badge, weighed heavy on my chest. Thompson approached, looking 10 years younger without Bishop's shadow looming over him. The governor sent a telegram, he said, offered you a position as territorial marshal. I shook my head. Redemption is enough for me. The town needs you, Ethan, now more than ever. I watched as people returned to their homes, businesses reopened, and life resumed. Running Bull and his warriors had departed with a promise of continued peace between our peoples. Joshua had been reunited with relatives who thought him lost forever. What about the wound? Thompson asked, nodding toward my bandaged shoulder. It'll heal, I said. Just another reminder. Of what? I turned toward the setting sun, its golden light bathing the town below. That justice may be slow, Marcus, but it finds its way to the frontier eventually. The peacemaker hung comfortably at my hip as Sergeant and I made our way down the hill toward redemption. For the first time since the war, I felt I'd found something worth fighting for, a home worth protecting. Not just a place, but the people who made it worth defending. In this unforgiving land, that was enough.